call upon the Councillor, Mrs. Pam George, to propose a toast to the Queen. Mum?
Thank you. Please, ladies and gentlemen, will you be standing, please, for the toast to the Queen. The Queen.
The Queen. God bless her.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I give you now Miss Rosie Swale Pope, MBE, who's recently returned from around the world walk for charity, who in due course will propose a toast to Pembroke Dock Council. Rosie.
Well, I can just tell you Pembroke Dock Town Council deserves several toasts, so I shall toast you at the end of my little speech, but at the beginning as well. I'd like to say 3 cheers for Pembroke Dock as a wonderful town that gave me hope and strength when I sailed across the Atlantic many years ago. And I just say I'm so honoured to be here with my friends, Tracy and Steve Thomas, and thank you for asking me. I have just run around the world, but that is a very small thing to do. That's why the small book I've written is called Just a Little Run Around the World. I will tell you a couple of my stories, but I won't. My beloved husband, who died of cancer, he used to say, Rosie, Rosie, shall I take a breath for you? Therefore, I'm starting my stopwatch because I mustn't go on for more than about 10 minutes. But I just want to tell you, the adventure is life. Everybody knows people who are sick in hospital or have friends of a nurse or a doctor or someone suffered from cancer or any other bad disease. And you know, the best times in life is just seeing a baby smile for the first time, or someone coming home with a school certificate, or winning a swimming. And the worst thing, of course, is somebody being sick or losing a job, or worrying about someone being away in a war. So that is what fate throws at you. So I think the hardest adventure is every day of life, and so is the most rewarding. Climbing Everest, running around the world is only a metaphor for life. So I just say, it's taught me, this journey, that great humility, because it's every day of life is special. And I was, well, I've done many stupid things in my life, but I was brought up by my grandmother, who said, Rosie, she said, it's not good looks or natural gifts that really count. Lucky for you, my child. It's the wanting to do things. And she said, be very grateful you weren't born a slug or a snail. Although they may lead very profound lives in their own way, the way to do things is to fill every moment. And she took me to live with her in Ireland, and she was very, very religious, which was very nice, and so, but she wouldn't send me to school because she thought it would teach me to swear, so she taught me at home. And her idea of fun was to send me off on my old bicycle and with my animals to have an adventure, and then I'd have to write about it. So I've more or less just carried on doing the same thing. It's pretty ordinary, really. And I have to tell you, Rebecca, that when I was a kid, I wanted a pony, and we couldn't afford one, you see, because we were not very wealthy. My grandmother had medical problems, she had osteoarthritis, and you know, there's no NHS in Ireland. And so I had an old cow called Cleopatra, who gave beautiful milk, even though she was fairly old. And I taught her to wear a halter and a saddle, and a neighbour joined me to the horse or pony club, and I learnt that cows jump over the moon only in fairy stories. So basically, I suppose I owe everything to my grandmother, and the fact that, you know, it's having a go, having a dream that counts, and just trying to do something. And I promise you that running around the world is nothing compared to, let's just say, making it as an engineer or a dentist or passing your school exams. I just think that life is exciting and difficult, and so I ran around the world because in my early days, as you know, I used to sail. I more or less sold my body and soul and posed as a mermaid on the front of a disreputable gentleman's magazine to re-rig my boat to sail from Pembroke dock here to New York in aid of a cancer scanner way back in 1983. And that was a most extraordinary journey because I bought that boat, and I haven't time to go on about it now, but I bought it in it was in a cowshed in Dolgeffley, and it was falling to pieces, and I bought it for £500, for which I'd sold my old car. And for many, many reasons, too long to go into tonight, the voyage took me 70 days. And it was really the kind of start of the round the world run, because I was nearly capsized because I was nearly run over by the mercury from Monrovia, and I had no electrics and I had no food for 5 days, and I was dreaming of a tree and a face and a voice. And when I got to New York, I sailed in the New York harbor, navigating with my Timex watch and astronavigation, and I just couldn't believe it. And I was met by some children, a little girl that looks rather like Lauren here, who said, "Hey there," she said, "are you the sailing Annie Oakley?" And I felt more like the ancient mariner, and I nearly drowned in New York harbor anyway, because I was trying to find my way to a posh yacht club with what had apparently been out searching for me. And so I found a squash bottle of hair, a little bit of hair shampoo, a sachet, and I washed my hair in the seawater, and my head stuck over the keel, and I nearly fell overboard in the end because I couldn't get the soap out of my eyes. So basically, I believe that adventures that you choose to go on are a mixture of work. I mean, I have no gifts at all, except for sleeping in ditches, perhaps, you know, and eating a lot of delicious roast beef tonight. But it's work, 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 and something that catches hold of your spine. But also, they're also in the midst of all the hardship, because it was a hard voyage, you had no food for 5 days, etc. But it's all about, it's a cabaret as well, isn't it? Like when you get met by kids in a fishing boat when you haven't seen anyone for 70 days. Then you just stop talking for 2 months, and perhaps never ever stopped talking since. That was a long time ago, and that was born right here in Pembroke dock. That gave me a chance, you know, when my first marriage had ended, I was in a hard time in my life, and I made a new start with this little boat, sailing down the beautiful waters here, and then non-stop to New York Harbor after 4,628 nautical miles, sighting Ambrose Lighthouse at New Harbor. Made me very pleased that it just all worked out and the navigation worked out, but I digress, because about 1,000 years later, after I'd met and been married to Clive, I met him at Kelpie's Boatyard. I'd been married to him for 20 years. Some of you may know Clive. You know, I know that Councillor David Jones is here tonight. Clive was a merry person with this beautiful, inquisitive face and sparkling blue eyes. He didn't have much time for doctors because he was a man who didn't think he would bother waste their time. He was a very fit man. He was older than me, but he would outrun me. He could do anything. And one day, in about 2000, he went to the doctor. He had a very minor twinge, and he looked great. If I told him to go for a checkup, he'd have thought I needed to go to St. David's, because, you know, he looked great. He was eating well. He was wonderful. Well, he went to the doctor, and by the time he'd gone to the doctor, Ewan Griffiths, he said, "You've got prostate cancer." And he said, "Don't worry, because so many people have it, and they live to be 90 and get run over by a bus." But because he'd never been for a checkup, and I had never thought to ask him to go because I had never thought about it, it had spread to the bone before he'd even known he was sick. Therefore, it was incurable. Therefore, it couldn't be treated. And I thought when I'm young, you know, when I was young, I'd run around the world. I'd forever had to get sponsorship. I couldn't bear to do that. After Clive had died, I'd been asking people for things, to be posing as mermaids in the front of gentlemen's magazines, way past all that sort of stuff. So I thought, I'd run around the world.